only one Partenov. Don't get greedy.
Oh, you. Don't be in a snit. Let's talk, you silly thing.
Alright, so just had to put that in the video for people in the clan. Um, Continuing from where I left off before, I'll probably do another 10 today. If not another 10, a good 8. Yeah, if not 10, a good 8. Um, Pretty busy with a lot of stuff. But that's a very good thing. That's a very good thing. It means like keeping my priorities in check. Love Warframe, but Warframe don't pay the bills. And besides, more than bills, Warframe don't secure that future. So, I mean, if I was working for Digital Extremes, then it would. That's a different story. It's not why I play this game. It's not why I do what I do. Let's do something to help people out with regards to different builds, different ideas from someone else who played the game all the time, for years, many years. And so that's just what I do for, mostly for the clan. So last left off, Lavos. Today is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I might be able to get through 8 of them. Maybe not 10, 8. Because I still have to do my work. I just got in. I still have to do my other work. So might be able to get 8. If I'm fast enough, I should be able to do 10. So let's go. Let's get straight into it. Lembo. Who is Lembo? Lembo, it says right here who he is. It says to the upper right section. Alright. What is Lembo's powers? If you're interested in the Warframe known as Lembo, here's some things you should know. These are his first abilities. I mean his first, second, third, and fourth ability. And I will explain to you what they are and what they do other than what it states here. Because it's not going to state about cooldown time or how it works with other frames and what's the best way to get the benefits from using this frame. But I will say that this frame is good for giving you back energy if you give it power. But it's a very slow process of getting energy back. Not sure if they nerfed that, um, but who knows? So first ability says it right there. So I won't speak too much with regards to this video today. I'll keep it mostly quiet, and I'll probably run over each of them to show what they do. And the only time I will talk if there's something very specific for each of them to know with regards to their frames. So this is his first ability. Like this is a good idea. There's tons of frames that could push things out of the way. But let's say the enemy is level 100 or level 200. If your damage is not strong enough, which is damage is at 272, if it's not strong enough to knock them on their ass, it won't knock them on their ass. But let's say the mechanics just make them get knocked on the ass regardless. And doesn't matter their strength level, it just knocks them on the ass. It's a duration based thing. So the whole purpose of Limbo's abilities is both range and duration more than anything else. So if you want them to stay on their ass for a long time, the best idea is to use duration. This is a duration / range build. It's important to understand. This is a crowd control frame. So if you find that you need to crowd control a lot of enemies and to complete objectives, let's say your objective is safety of a container or safety of a person or extraction of a target or survival or capture or maybe not spy, sabotage, any mission within this game except maybe I would say spy. This is a good warframe to use because this warframe is based on duration, range, and power strength. Mainly duration and range. And this is one of the few warframes that have a ridiculous range. And his power is based on his stun ratio and effect on all enemies within a 360 degree. In other words, it's a giant sized globe. So if you think about someone like Frost or Gara, they have a huge globe around them. His is an even longer range than theirs are. So he's one of the few frames that has a ridiculously long range. So if you max out his range to 280, the range of 280 is added to the factor of his base standard range anyway. So that's something that's very good. And then this is his last ability. And that's basically him in a nutshell. Now, which one would you subsume? It really depends on what you're trying to do. So it says it casts a wave of energy that blah blah blah. Maybe you would subsume this one. Or if you don't want to, because you want to keep enemies on their ass if they're in front of you or to the left or right of you for a certain time, you wouldn't want that. And then this one says freeze rift bound enemies. While active, enemy projectiles are arrested in mid-air, resuming its trajectory when stasis ends. So another based on duration ability. In other words, bullets, firing, everything that's happening gets frozen in the air. So if the bullet is aiming directly toward you while it's traveling, it'll hit you. But before they could fire off another, once they're frozen, no more bullets can fly. So as the bullet is coming out of the weapon, it's frozen along as well as they are. but bullets that are already towards you are going to get towards you. So that's one of the things that I always found annoying. It's like, okay, so it could free us enemies and it could free us their bullets and stuff, but not as soon as it gets to directly in front of you, I guess. Third one is this. This works in conjunction with the second ability. Second ability, third ability, they work in conjunction with each other. So typically what you would do is you would, I would say you would cast, or wait a minute, no. It's the fourth ability. Yeah. So typically you would cast the second ability, which is projectiles are frozen, and then once all projectiles are frozen within the allotted range that you have, saying that you have extremely far range, everyone's frozen, you then cast your fourth ability. And blast of wave energy tears open a pocket of rift which can be sustained itself for a short period before collapsing in another lethal blast. So this is basically a blast wave of energy blast wave that tears open a pocket or rift planes. It will only sustain itself for a short period, but once you have this on and then this on, because what people usually do is they cast the fourth ability, which is the fourth, then they cast the second, which is the freeze. Or I think it's you cast the second first and you cast the fourth and then you cast the second, because what the fourth does, it violently blasts and it doesn't work. So I have to remember how it works. So the second and the fourth ability are synergized together. I believe the third as well. Yeah, I would say maybe the third ability is the one that you would want to get rid of. I'm thinking about it. It's either the first or your third. So I'll use this in combat and see how it goes first. But first I would check my range, since this is all about range, less about strength and about duration. So standard strength of 250. Let's see. Let's see if I could do something about that. And let's add, let's say corrosive. And do I want more range? Sure, I'll give it more range, but this will lower my power strength from a 90 to about 85. Um, and you will see how it is once you fall below the marker. As you can see, the only thing that's in the red are the damage. So if you're not concerned with damage because your weapon is going to be doing the damage, not your powers, then it's fine if he has low damage amount, explosion amount, or damage amount. That's not the purpose of this Warframe. The purpose of the Warframe is to keep everything locked in a duration period and keep everything within a range period. So it's range and duration. So I'll test this in combat. This Warframe also does a neat thing of giving you energy over time. I think the third ability, yeah, I believe the third ability, serve and balance the enemy's rift, yeah, with rift energy when killed, rift energy is transferred to nearby. Okay, so let me check his, I think, let me check. Bench is also bench rift of 25, so maximum health. Damage to each enemy. All right. Yeah, it's fine. Oh, that's the problem. Okay. Actually, before I even go into mission, I want to make sure this is 100% sure that this dude can give energy over time, but how much can he give based on his power strength? I wonder. I never checked it before. I know he could do it, but I never checked how much energy he gives over time. So let me just go on to the internet right now to remember how much he gives over time. Let's see here. How much? Okay, so let me look at this video. Okay, so I was right. Over time, you get energy when you're in the rift. So if you stand in a rift over time, you should be getting energy. So I'm going to test this first within the simulacrum, and then I'll test it in mission. Now, how the rift works, if you're using a limbo, you charge forward like you're sprinting forward or you're rolling forward. It's the same as a roll. You roll forward. Not sprint forward like you're running forward, but you roll forward. He doesn't really roll, he charges forward. He does the same thing kind of like what Hildren does or what uh, Wisp does. So we'll test this in combat and then afterwards. So first I'll use the simulacrum to do this. If I don't need to go in combat, I'll just use the enemies within the simulacrum. So this is one way to understand this Warframe. Real quick, real easy. It's a different one. I got a different one. Okay. I must have earned that one. Yeah. Syndicate. Throw Syndicate. So this is not a hard Warframe to understand. It's quite simple to use this. Right corner. You see he has 216 energy. Okay. I can't pick this up. Normally all the energy will goes towards him. I can't pick this up. I can't pick this up. Because he's not here. He's here, but he's not here. When he's in a rift plane, it's like smoke that's all around him. It's because he's not here. You can see him, but he's not really here. He's in a different dimension. Basically, Limbo is a dimension Warframe. He's in another planes of existence, a rift. A rift within time and a rift within space. So he cannot touch anything. He can move around on everything, but nothing around him can be affected. So over time his energy goes up. Now what we'll do is first we'll test it based on strength. You charge forward again, you get out of it. Now you can pick everything up. Okay. So we'll test it forward. Actually, we'll say as you can see, they cannot do anything to him when he's in a rift. It has a duration period, as it's stated here. Duration period of the first ability can only be initialized when you use the ability. However, the best part about this Warframe is that his charge forward allows him to go into the rift. Which means he can never really die. And you never have to worry about your energy or any of your powers and any of that stuff. Even bombs don't work. The point of this Warframe is it's not about him, it's about everyone else. Because if it was just about him, he could never be killed in any mission, and you could always run to an objective, extract a person, and get to your extraction simply based on him just charging forward. It won't even matter if the enemy is level, like say level 200, level 300, level 400. He'll never die doing this, but that's boring because his whole thing is it's not about him. His whole thing is not about him. His whole thing is about everyone else, your teammates. So, first ability cannot be used. Second ability cannot be used. Third ability can be used. You notice when I'm in the rift, I can't use the first, can't use the second, but I can use the third. And there's a reason for that, because the first and the second ability requires him to be in a rift or to do rift abilities, where the third doesn't require him to really do rift. In other words, even though it says rift bound enemies with rift energy can be killed, they're not really in the rift yet. You have to cast the rift on them for them to be in the rift. The second ability and the first ability works kind of in conjunction with each other, as well as the fourth, where the third is different. The fourth ability also works. I'll do that again. Now the fourth ability is on. Now, if you notice, he's taking damage now. He's now taking damage. There's a reason for that. And the reason is that he's in a rift. So, here's what is very important to understand about him. Once he's already in a rift, if he decides to cast another rift, it then takes him off rift. So if he does rift, like say third ability, second ability doesn't work, and it still doesn't work. However, because the third ability casts rift on someone. However, when he used the fourth ability put rift on everyone else and freezes everyone else, which means his rift that was on him before has now come off, so he now has to go back on rift again. Outside of the bubble. See? See, now they can't hurt him. Because he cannot be... See, you have to understand him. He cannot be in two rifts. He can only be in one rift. So his rift that's on him is here, outside of his bubble. The moment he goes pull his own rift that's on him inside of another rift, it cancels out his rift. So Limbo must always be in one rift and one rift only. It's very important to understand. So first abilities, second abilities, third abilities, I'll do it right now after I take off his first ability, because he can't use his first and second without taking off his rift. So first, oh wait a minute, hold on, did I, no, maybe I'm bugging out. Oh, that's why. What the hell? Oh, that's why. Okay, so just ignore what I just said. It's like I was wondering what the hell was going on. The whole thing, okay, so when he has this on and he's like this, he could do it. See? What the hell? What's going on? I thought I just did A. Okay, yeah. Alright, so I'm right. Alright. Let's try this again. 1, 2. They're all frozen now. And it will stay that way until my duration for my fourth comes off. So second. Typically what people do is they cast the fourth and the second. So everyone within this range, within this fourth, second. That's how that Warframe works. They're all frozen. And over time you're getting energy while you're in the rift. But you also get 10 plus energy every time you kill an enemy. This Warframe is also slow though on his casting, so it's a requirement for you to have a mod to speed up his fourth ability. The time period he casts his fourth, his second, his third, and his first all take a long time. I think that's all the enemies, and that should be it for right now. Or wait for it to run out. Okay, so here's the thing to remember. Um, if you're doing things based on duration, you have to pay attention to duration. This is 39.75, and this is 19.88, which means their frozen state will come off first before the riff of the fourth ability comes off. So that's the reason why people cast the fourth first and then the second thereafter, because it has a shorter duration period. Yeah, and that's pretty much Limbo in a nutshell. How do you survive using this Warframe? Simple. You use fast casting mod, long range, and lots of duration. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch off. I have long range, but I don't have fast casting mods. As shown in the video, he takes a long time to cast his ability, so it's an imperative requirement for him to always have natural talent. So even though his efficiency go to 100, this is a Warframe that gives himself energy as he stands in the rift, so you could easily substitute that for natural talent. This is a Warframe based on duration, and this is a Warframe based on range, not so much power strength. So you want to make sure your duration is much higher than this. Increase it at a whopping amount. You don't have to worry about lowering, having high power strength. I would suggest going with something that would increase your duration period even more. Narrow-minded will lower your range, which you don't want. You want something to have even more duration without lowering your range. The whole purpose is to freeze everyone, all your enemies. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find another duration mod just for this test, put it here, don't worry about strength, and have it here. And I'll put whatever I want here. Doesn't really matter for this test because it's not about this. And I'll do it again. So test again. I'm at 205 energy in the lower right corner. I'm gonna charge forward. Now this is not part of his powers. His powers are these: 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all stated for what they do. This knocks people to the ground. This casts them and freezes them. This basically put effects of them in the banished world, and this is a fourth. So out of all three of these abilities, I say the third is probably the most useless one. But this synergizes with this. Always cast your fourth before you cast your second, because the duration, as you see, for the second is 26.85, and the duration for the fourth is 53.7, which means this is going to come off before this comes off, which means the enemy are going to not be frozen even though this is in there. So always cast this first and thereafter cast this. It seemed to make no sense, but they're synergized with each other. This does an explosion amount and they take more damage, but this is basically your main bread and butter. As long as you have this on at a high duration period, you don't have to worry so much about this. Your main focus is to have high duration for this more than anything else, and range, longer duration period. If they're within the rift, they'll be frozen. That's a given. But if they're not within the rift, you need to have this high enough in order to freeze them. So testing this out again. His charge forward ability, he's now in the rift. In the lower right corner, he's now getting energy. 221, 223, 224, 225. This is not a power. This is just like a rolling ability. His rift is represented by another world. He tore a fabric in reality, and he's now in that reality. So if you shoot him, bomb him out, it's like looking into a mirror, but you can't damage the person inside of the mirror. You can only break the mirror. So when he gets out, he's now in reality. Goes back in, he's in reality. And in reality, he gets energy. But not just him. Everyone else in your team starts to get energy. So as long as they're within the rift, they will also get energy. So the moment you do your fourth, which is this, and your allies are standing within this rift world of this huge bubble, see all around you, they're getting energy per second as long as they're inside this thing. And if they kill an enemy, I'm not sure if it works with them as well, but if they kill an enemy inside this rift, they get 10 energy going back to them. It might only work for Limbo, but they will be getting energy over time as long as they're standing within the rift. Killing them might be only a thing given to Limbo, that he gets extra 10% of energy, or extra 10 energy going to him. You can also turn off the rift at any time. Let's say you have to move to another objective. This objective is secure. You want to turn on the rift, turn off the rift. You move to the next objective. Cast it on again. What it does is surround all the enemy. Then you cast your second ability. Freeze all the enemies within this globe. So every enemy that's within your big fourth circle, your fourth ability, and you cast your second ability, all enemies that are within this huge globe are now frozen. Which means you take your time and kill each of them. But remember, your duration period from the frozen is 28 point something seconds, depending on what your duration period is. And that's pretty much Limbo in a nutshell. So I'll do it again in the mission. One final time for Limbo. And then I'll move on to the next Warframe. The third is not really much needed. I would say the only time the third is needed is when you're in a sticky situation or you're trying to get someone else out of. Oh, I keep forgetting. Yes, and always remember, if you want energy over time, you have to get out of that rift, out of the huge globe, and make sure you're outside of it and goes back into your own rift. Because two rifts cannot exist on top of each other. Once you're inside that huge globe, you're invulnerable. You're vulnerable if you cast your charge forward rift again. There can only be one rift at a time on you. So now I have energy on me. Oh yeah, the reason that guy just hit me is because he entered the rift from where I first charged forward. So you have to make sure you know exactly where you're going to charge forward so no one run through that window that you're running through. So let's say one of those, yeah. So that bomb of his went through that rift and hit me. So now they cannot do anything because the rift I jumped downwards is over there. So the bomb would have to go down there, or the projectile will have to go down there. So it won't, so that's a good thing. Cast the fourth ability. Cast the second ability. They're all frozen. If I want, I could cast the first. It won't change the fact that they're frozen. As long as the second ability is on and that you use the first won't interrupt your second. Say I cast the third. That's off. I use the third. And third is not interrupted by the first or the second. So none of his abilities interrupt each other. As long as you have the fourth and the second on, you're fine. So that's pretty much Limbo in a nutshell. Just make sure if you want to get energy back, you stay outside of that giant bubble. Oh, best suggestion. Here's the best suggestion. Just turn off the fourth. Turn it off. Because if you charge outside of that fourth bubble and it's still on, you're still going to take damage because, as I said before, two rifts cannot exist at the same time. Physically at the same time. I'll prove it. Just one last time. Just fourth. And now I'm gonna go out of it. I'm now out of it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh yeah, see? There you go. Now people would say, well, it's because the bullet went through the rift. So, because the bullet went through the rift, depends on where the bullet goes. The moment the bullet goes through the rift, you start taking damage over time. I would say that would be very accurate. So you have to know where to place the rift. Not very complicated frame if you really think about it. It's quite simple, stupid. I'll do it again. So, cast a rift, fourth ability. If you're jumping, jump out, jump to a safe place. Charge forward, you're now in the rift. As long as bullets or bombs or anything don't go through here, you're fine. Because now, that's over there. You're out of range of your huge globe. And you're in the rift, and you're not taking damage. See? It does nothing to you. So if people, you know, if you ever have someone say, well, it doesn't matter if you're out of range, you know, you can't have two on them at the same time. That's not true. Because I just proved it right here, then and there. I just proved it right here, right now. While the fourth one is on over there, I'm outside here. Just dodge forward. As long as a bullet doesn't go through here, I'm fine. Only when he takes damage as a bullet or projectile goes through that little window, goes through the rift, he starts taking damage, and he has to recast all over again. So don't ever let anyone tell you that if you have 2 or 3 or any of your rifts on, you have to take one off or the other. It doesn't work that way. You just have to not be within, 2 rifts cannot be within each other. But as long as they're outside of each other, it's perfectly fine. So that was Limbo in a nutshell. So now I exit. And I'll go into a mission and I'll use it on the enemies. The best solution is to actually, you know, I really don't need to. I think I explained it well enough for Limbo. So let's move on to the next Warframe. It's very simple. Charge forward, you go into Rift. Run forward means you're into Rift. When you cast your fourth ability and a huge bubble is around you, make sure you're outside of that bubble if you want to not take damage anymore. Because if you're charged forward inside of the bubble, you're going to start taking damage. As long as, because why I'm saying this, if the enemy could see where that little window, that rift window is, and any type of damage that goes through the little rift window, it's going to start damaging your Warframe. So it's less on, I would say it's less about having two rifts inside of each other. It's more like playing it safe. I would say that's the main thing. I always say it's not a good idea to have two rifts inside of each other because it kind of turns each other off. But what I'm actually trying to say is it's not a good idea to have them close to each other at all. You have to be at a safe place. They can be in each other, but you would have to be at like a high location where the enemy cannot get, or a type of AoE damage effect cannot go through the rift. You would have to hide that rift in order for no damage to go through that rift, or wait for it to disappear, and then they can't damage you anymore. So that's the only bad part about Limbo, is that if he doesn't find a good place to hide that rift before it closes, he start taking damage. So that was Limbo in a nutshell. Not my best Warframe, but since I don't use them a lot, it's the only way I could describe it is use your fourth, use your second. Don't use most of your energy and your powers on your first or on your third unless it's necessary to do so. And never ever, like if you're going to run through a rift, like know when you're inside of a bubble rift and you're not inside of a bubble rift. Because if you're in the rift while you're inside of a bubble, it's likely that if an enemy starts shooting you while they're inside, it will go through that window and you will start taking damage. So it's never a good idea to have two rifts inside of each other. I always recommend that people don't do that. He's one of the most powerful Warframes. Limbo is one of the most powerful Warframes simply because his charge forward allows him to be invincible, like forever. And it doesn't consume any energy whatsoever at all. So he could do many missions by himself without ever needing to use energy, as long as he's within that rift window. People use him because it's a nice little cheat to have him. Here, this is Loki. And this is Loki's ability. This is the next Warframe. Oh, wrong one. Let's try this again. Okay, so this is Loki Warframe. This one I won't speak on. I'll just let his powers do his thing. This one is even more simple than than Limbo. So I'll just let what I'm doing, my physical actions, do its thing, and I won't speak on it. It should be self-explanatory, and I'll show it in combat. I'll only talk on certain things when I need to talk on certain things with regards to this one, but this one should be real quick and real fast. Alright, now things to talk about. This Warframe can be anywhere from a range to a not range Warframe. Depending on the type of mission you're doing, this Warframe is essential on two parts. One, range, defense, and two, stealth, defense. This is a Warframe that works with regards to range, duration, and what else? And health. Yes. Why I say health is because this Warframe's health is this. So, three things. Range, duration, health. Also, not range, duration, health. This Warframe works both with range and not range. If you're doing a stealth mission by yourself, not range. If you're doing a defense target with your fellow teammates, range. Unless you're doing defense mission with other people, or you're doing survival missions with other people, and you need to. It's mostly about defending a target. Only when you're defending a target would you ever need range for this Warframe. Most of the times this Warframe does not require range, but it does require a lot of health, a lot of duration, and casting speed. Or not range, duration, casting speed. For this one, I have casting speed, I have health, and I have lots of duration. This is a Warframe that works two ways. I will show it in mission. And depending on who you are and the type of playstyle you want, if you want both a Warframe that has both range and duration at the same time, and not range and duration at the same time, this might be a Warframe for you. I'll now test this in combat.
For the Lotus.
So, first ability creates a decoy, so they can't hit you. They will shoot at the decoy before they shoot at you. Decoy is destroyed, now they start hitting at you. Second ability makes you go invisible, so now you cannot take any more damage because they cannot find you. They will run all about the place looking for you. You could be crouching around them, say hi, peekaboo. You can't see me. And they will never find you. His godsend ability is his second ability. Third ability, he can switch places with another enemy. Let's say this enemy is over here. Depending if you're using range in a range combat or you're trying to extract someone, you will use your third ability. Not really necessary when you're doing not range. You're doing less range. You switch out with him and he'll be confused. And switching out with him to be confused means you're not able to complete your objective by switching out with that person. This is best used when you're in a mission and you need to extract something that's hidden behind a wall or remove an enemy from an obstacle that's defending a target.
Let's go.
Let's say an enemy is defending a target with regards to you needing to hack something. If you use your third ability, you switch with that target. That target's now where you are, and you're now where the hacking console is, which allows you to now remove the obstacle by using the third ability. The fourth ability is what is called disarm. This is disarm, fourth. I did it so fast you couldn't see it. Actually, I'll test. Actually, I'm gonna test this in the simulacrum. When you're testing this with other players, the problem is they kill everything so fast you're unable to do your job and explain things correctly. So the simulacrum is best to test things. Allies kill things too fast, unable to explain. Video. This is a great Warframe. This Warframe would be considered an S class, A plus to a S minus Warframe. Why I say S minus is because of his second ability. If you go allow his second ability to be almost close to a full 2 minutes of invisibility, the enemy cannot do anything to you. And if you have the natural talent mod added to that, the natural talent mod allows him to go from 2-second cast to 1-second cast, which means it will take 1 second before and a bullet gets to you, and then you go invisible again, and they can't find you. I'll prove it. We're now in the simulacrum. I won't choose anyone because it doesn't really matter. Some people will say this is a B plus to a A plus Warframe, as those people have never played this Warframe as much as I have played this Warframe. I'm going to use enemies that are level 179 that are steel path enemies, which means they're any enemies that's 179 or 175 means you've gone beyond the 2-hour range in combat in any mission within the game. And you won't really need to go beyond an hour to fight an enemy in this game. I'm just going to use this to prove a point. And they're also steel path enemies, so they're all going to be charging at me. 5 of this, 2 of this, and 6 of this. First ability. Let's see what they'll do. Oh, they already killed it. Second ability. They're looking for me. I'm gonna sit right here. Oh, wait. They will follow you as long as they can hear footsteps. I'm messing with them. Basically, yeah, you see that? 1 second casting. 1 bullet hit. 1. You would probably take 3 bullets if you didn't have natural... No, 3 or 4 bullets if you didn't have natural talent on. That's the second ability. Third ability is to switch place with your enemy. Now, if you have range on this Warframe, you could be all the way standing all the way over here. Look at them, aim your reticles all the way at them, and switch places with them. I doubt I'll be able to do it from this range, but let's see what'll happen. Nope. Look at that. That's beautiful. I was all the way over here and it still have that amount of range. What that does is allow you to extract them from, let's say they're guarding a target, or they're not letting you hack in, or getting into a location, and they're really strong. They're a boss or they're something like that. This allows you to move them from where they were to now to where you were. Very helpful for when you want to get secret items and secret loot. That's the third ability. The fourth ability, do not forget, just because you're invisible doesn't mean you're invincible. So you have to look out for anything that has bombs on the ground like this, or any type of projectiles. But you could easily do that when you're invisible, because you're not staying in one place. you're running out the way. You're rolling out the way. All you need to do is look at your lower right corner. Look at your lower right corner and see the duration period for which it's going to run out. It says 17, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. And from once it gets from 10 and goes to 9, it starts to go down real fast. That's the sweet spot right there. The moment it starts going down fast, that's when you stop, find a nice little safe place, and then put it back on again. And then start messing with people. Mess with them. Mess with them. They can't do absolutely nothing to you. They can do nothing. Now, what the fourth ability does is this. Let's say you have friends and allies with you. What these douchebags can do now is, all they could do now is use a melee weapon and charge at you with a melee weapon. Which means if your friends are far away from them, bombs, projectiles, everything that they had on them, like these guys weren't affected by it. They're not going to be affected by it. He's not affected by it. I'm not using a range Warframe, I'm using a duration. That's why he's not affected. But if you're using a range on this Warframe, all these guys will drop their weapons and only use their melee weapon. Which means, if your friends have bombs, guns, projectiles, they would have to run towards your friends to try to kill them. You see what I'm saying? And if you have duration on the fourth ability, for every enemy within your long range ability, all the enemies within the vicinity will have to run towards your enemies just to kill them. By the time they reach your allies, they'll be killed. They all will have to charge forward to kill you because they can never shoot you anymore. And that's basically Loki in a nutshell. So I could really just kill every single one of them. But I'm not going to, because it's too easy. It's too easy. It's easier than breathing. These are beyond 2-hour enemies, and they're steel path, and it could do absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. Even if they were Exumus, it won't make a difference, because the Exumus cannot kill you if they cannot find you. You can keep shooting at them, and they will go towards where they hear the sound, but if you always run away and shoot them like this, all they could do is run towards the sound, but they could never actually kill you or hurt you. They're running towards what they're hearing. So even if they have a gun, it doesn't matter. So that's basically Loki in a nutshell. A godsend Warframe in my opinion. I only say he's S- because his health is low and his armor is low. So if he gets got, it's bad. Now, the next Warframe is Mag. Now I already explained this before in the last video with regards to a mag build, so I'm not going to explain that one again. This one I'll keep quiet. If you need to learn about what mag does and what mag can do, I made a video with regards to mag on how to optimize mag and to use mag professionally. So I'm just going to be quiet for this one and just roll over her different abilities and use them in combat. In all truth, if you really think about it, Loki is kind of like an S Warframe, not an S-. Because if it wasn't for his health and his armor, he would be an S Warframe. Not an S+, but an S Warframe. He can do anything in any mission. Pretty much I passed most of my master rank tests with Loki. In fact, I'm at master rank 30 right now. I believe I only used 4 different Warframes other than Loki throughout my many years of playing Warframe. No, 5. 5 Warframes other than Loki throughout my many years. So he's that good of a Warframe that you don't need to use other Warframes. But he's also squishy if you stay within damaging range. That's why I have him at an S-. Alright, this is Mag. I'll go through everything and I will just show her abilities in action.
These are worthy foes. Underestimate them at your peril.
Alright, so the thing to remember about this Warframe. Second, third ability. Second, third ability. Second, third ability. Not so much fourth, not so much first. The only time you need to use the first is when you want to pull enemies into your globe. The only time you want to do that, if you see enemies that are at a distance anywhere outside of the globe of the second ability, you want to pull them in there. That's when you use your first ability. But it's always second and third. Second and third. Use the first only when you want to pull enemies into that globe. And use only the fourth ability when it's absolutely necessary. And only when it's necessary. It's mostly second, third.
They have just shut down all systems. I'm sending life support capsules your way.
To my dagger under the heading Consequences.
Easiest money ever. Cast second, cast third. Always make sure you know where the enemy is coming from and stay around the globe. If you stay around the globe, they can't hit you when you're around the globe, because the bullets will have to go around the globe to get you. Second, third. Now if you're running out of enemies, you use your first and pull them into the globe. Don't linger too far away from the globe. Just stay around the globe. The globe is like a nice little protective wall for you.
Extraction is available if you need it.
What you have learned here will serve you well.
Actually, correction. Almost every Warframe can go more than an hour easily in a mission. What I meant to say, any Warframe that could go more than an hour and a half. That's the difference. If you could go anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour in a mission, you've succeeded. You have a great Warframe, an A+ Warframe. But if you go more than an hour and a half to 2 hours, then that's an S tier Warframe. Any Warframe that could hit the 2 hour marker is S tier. Any Warframe that could hit the 1 hour marker is A+. A+ to an S. But if your Warframe could go more than that, anywhere from 1 hour to 30 minutes to 2 hours, that's an S+ Warframe. Or an S tier Warframe. Mag, I believe, might be able to go 3 hours if she has an infested healer and other bots with her. and her globe is much longer. And if she has the proper focus tree setup, yeah, she could go beyond. Okay, so this is Mesa. Another Warframe that can be considered anywhere from a A plus to S minus Warframe. Same as with Limbo, same as with Loki, same as with Mag. Same Mesa is anywhere from a A plus to an S minus Warframe. Why I would say she's not A plus is because she's a forward Warframe. She's not a 360. And if she takes a lot of damage, she will go down. She's not as squishy as, like, say, Mag is, but because she has an ability that I would say her projectile or limit the amount of damage she's take is not limited for the type of enemy that she's fighting. If the enemy has ridiculous power within their gun, it doesn't matter what her projectile ability is, she will take a significant amount of damage coming towards her. So to me, she's anywhere from an A plus to an S minus Warframe. Her fourth ability, however, is S plus. So even though she herself is not S plus, and most of her abilities aren't S plus, the fourth ability is S plus. That's why she's in the S category. I have her S minus because if it wasn't for her fourth, she would be A plus. So this is the Warframe Mesa. Now I must point out that it says damage reduction 95%. So that 5% damage, let's say if the enemy has corrosive on his weapon, that's high corrosive on his weapon. Even though she's taking 5% of damage from the weapon, that's 5% of damage from the weapon from both the projectile or damage type from the weapon, and as well as the elemental that's on that weapon. So it's not just the damage of the weapon bullets or lasers, it's also whatever is on that weapon as an elemental she's taking damage from. So this is just a rough summation of she only has 5% damage that she will be taking from whatever it is, the elemental type as well as the bullet. So you have to consider that as well. It's not 95% damage towards everything. It's 95% damage reduction toward the specific things that she's going to be affected by. So it's, let's say if an enemy does a huge fire AoE damage effect, that's 95% damage reduction of that AoE damage effect. And then an enemy shoots a bullet from her that has corrosive on it, she's 95% damage reduction of that with regards to that bullet goes towards her. So you see what I mean? Third ability is not as great as you would think, because you say, oh man, 95% damage reduction, which means only 5% left, but you're not thinking from the point of view of the game itself. A guy throws fire all about it, like an Exumus throws fire all around him. 95% damage is not taken from this Warframe, but 5% from that fire goes onto her. Okay, that's fine. An enemy from the distance shoot a bullet at her, 95% damage goes down. 5% is only considered. Okay, that's fine. Then another enemy throws a bomb at her. 95% bomb is reduced. 5% is taken. You see what I'm saying? So that's 5, 5, 5 from 3 different people. So it's actually like 15% damage she's taken. So she cannot be within the same location. She has to run from location to location to location to make sure she reduces damage over time. Otherwise, if she stands in one place and she's taking shots from all these different type of people from all different types, then that damage reduction is not going to work squat. So that's one thing I want to consider, because if you're picking this Warframe, always stick and move, stick and move. and this is the fourth ability. So I'll try all four of them in combat, and if this is the type of Warframe you like, go for it. This is an A plus to an S minus Warframe. She's only S minus because that third ability is really finicky and really questionable.
I need access to a terminal. Find one and patch me in.
First ability. First ability. Ballistic battery. When activated, power stores damage caused by guns. When triggered again, the damage is channeled through the next gunshot, which means first ability isn't jack shit unless unless you're using it a second time. This Warframe's bread and butter is his second and his third ability. No, the second and the fourth ability. So this Warframe has two standard abilities and two really godsend abilities. Second ability basically does this. It casts a little thing that runs around them and is protecting this Warframe circle thing that circles around them. I've made the color invisible so you can't see it, but it's basically going around this Warframe. It also goes around another Warframe. It says here, shooting gallery. Allows it to circle around you and your fellow Warframe. So depending on the range, and my range is 16 meters, the standard. It could go around 1. If your ally run out of range, it will still stay on them. It's about casting it on them, not about how far they're on. As long as the duration is on them, it's fine. That was the first abilities. That was the second ability. Now for the third. The third allows enemies who are going to shoot me, the finicky third, 95% damage reduction. Stick and move when you have your third ability on, and make sure you're facing the enemy forward. Because this is not a Warframe where the third ability guarantees you going to block shots coming from your back. This is a left, right, forward. That means your range is in front of you. If you see it in front of you, that's where the damage reduction is going to come. Not from the back where you can't see. So that's first, second, and third. Second is to help fellow Warframes. Third is to reduce damage towards you. And fourth ability is to kill everything. The sole purpose why any Warframe would want you, this Warframe called Mesa, in party, is for one reason and one reason only. To kill everything, which is the fourth ability. Because no one within your party cares about anything other than you killing everything.
We are finished here. Move on.
As you can see, she carried 2 double revolvers, and she shoot them at ridiculous range and at ridiculous speed, which means she's basically Clint Eastwood, but a cybernetic version of Clint Eastwood. However, there are certain enemies you cannot hit until their little globe goes off, like this enemy. But it doesn't really matter. Help enemies, help allies. Now I'm going to show you exactly why she's important. See him coming towards me? Hey you. There goes his health. And that's the reason why people bring her in party. That guy was an acolyte, and he's the most dangerous person in this mission. He's a mini boss, and she just shredded his health like it was nothing. Like she was just, you know, slicing through bread with a butter knife, or through butter with a butter knife. Dead. So if you like shooting everything like you're Dirty Harry, or like you're, you know, Clint Eastwood, many characters through his movies, I would go for this Warframe.
The odds were against us, Tenno, but we did it. Mission complete.
Her sole purpose is to kill every damn thing, and no one gets in her way.
We have to win this.
This is why I say this is the A class. I mean, anywhere from an A plus to a S minus Warframe, or to a S Warframe. The only reason she's not A plus is simply the fact that that third ability, and that's Mesa, basically a killing machine. She's not the highest DPS in the game, but I would say she's either the second or the third highest DPS in the game, which means her sole purpose is to do one thing. It's like, hey guys, you know, I'm kind of bored. I want to get through this mission real fast. Okay, just bring Mesa, and then she'll kill everything, and then you could go away. It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna bring her. That's the whole that's the whole purpose of this Warframe, to kill everything for everybody, to make everyone's ride easy. Yeah, she's one of the most wanted Warframe in the game. So, but if you're not about just killing everything all at once, you want to, you know, even out the playing field with regards to your fellow Tennos and have some fun too, you would go with other Warframes. This is Mirage, up next. This is her abilities. I'll talk less on this Warframe and just let her abilities do their thing when I cast it. For right now, I'm just going to shut up and show it. Oh, my bad, that's the wrong configuration. When you subsume certain Warframes, if you subsume them into a configuration A, it would show a different power. Well, let me go to configuration B or C. Let's see if it's going to show her original. Yes, this is her original. Okay, let's go back, start all over again. Alright, the one thing I would say with regards to this Warframe is very important, is anytime you see the word hold, it means that you have to switch to a button where you could press and hold down on for it to activate. Typically all Warframe's abilities, you could just swipe on the button, whatever the controller you're using or whatever keyboard you're using, you just press a button or swipe on it. But if you're using a controller, especially a PlayStation controller, it's hard to hold down on the center D-pad, so I would suggest to switch your third ability to one of the buttons on your controller that you could hold down on, like it's a button, so that you could do what it says here, temporary increase barrage weapon damage. That won't work if you're using a center D-pad, because center D-pad doesn't activate with regards to your fingertips. So I'm going to switch her third to the center D-pad just for this video. So her ability C is the third ability. So A, B, C, and D. There are 4 abilities. Ability C is now going to be up button, which means the sprint is now going to be the ability C location. And I save it. So every time I'm in mission, I have to remember up is the ability button in order for me to increase my weapon damage. So I'm going to use this in... Oh yeah, one more thing to remember about this Warframe, which is very important. What this basically does is self-explanatory. This Warframe is kind of very specific. Eclipse is exactly what it says. It reduces the damage Mirage takes from enemies when she's in the dark. It doesn't say it. She has to be in the dark. I mean, she takes less damage whether she's in the light or dark once you cast the third ability, but she takes even lesser damage when she's in the dark. As you will see in the video, she runs into the dark area. Now, they don't say it within this text, but they show it within the image, so it's very important. If you want even less damage to be taken upon you, you go into the dark. The safest bet is to run into the dark quick after you cast the third. That way you get 75% damage reduction. So it doesn't have that 95% damage reduction like, say, Mesa has, but it does give you damage reduction when you cast that third ability. So, and then when you hold on the button of the third ability, you also increase your weapon's damage to about 200%. I believe that might actually be more... No, it's not more powerful than Mesa's fourth, but it's more powerful with regards to your guns that you're using. So it's very powerful. The bread and butter of this Warframe is the first ability and the third ability, and that's it. The fourth ability only works when you need to blind enemies. In other words, I wouldn't use it to kill enemies. I would use it simply to blind enemies. You cast it once, and then you cast it a second time. By casting it a second time, it turns it off while it's going through its rollerball killing everything. So, that said, I'm going to do this in mission. And I'll show you how this works. I'm going to pick Assault, Murmur. No, actually I don't know the duration I have on this Warframe. Maybe I'm picking the wrong one. Duration is very important. This is also a duration-based Warframe. Not so much range, duration. So duration is very important with regards to this Warframe. This Warframe's duration is 194. Less about range. Duration and damage. Power, strength, and duration. This Warframe is less about range, more about duration, strength, and of course, efficiency. 3 things. Duration, strength, efficiency. Duration, strength, efficiency. That is Warframe bread and butter. Duration, strength, efficiency. And of course, with regards to the powers, the bread and butter is Halls of Mirrors and third. And they work in synergy to duration, strength, and efficiency. Because if you could have more efficiency, you cast it over and over and over and over and over again. And of course, this is also a squishy Warframe, so you always want to make sure you have health on, because it doesn't have a lot of strength. That's the whole point of duration, strength, and efficiency. With lots of duration, you don't have to worry too much about taking a lot of hits, because your clones from your Halls of Mirrors are going to be taking that damage. Now, if they're too close to you, because you have too less of range, then that's bad. Because if an enemy throws a bomb towards you, and the bomb is close enough that it's going to damage you because your characters aren't far apart, then that's bad. Because now they're taking the damage, as well as you're taking the damage as well. So it's very important to have at least a decent amount of range, but not too much range that it will reduce your duration. So I have it at 79. You could have it at 100, And if you want to increase it slightly, you would have to remember and to be very careful with regards to your efficiency. So if you want to reduce your efficiency and say, I want to remove my efficiency to have more duration, and I want to increase my range, you have to remember, watch with regards to your duration when it goes off, and watch with regards to your efficiency as well. When you should turn it off and when you should turn it on. For me, I believe it's very important to have at least a certain amount of efficiency. 100 to me is not enough, so I would go with the mod called Energy Nexus, which allows me to get efficiency over time at 79, while still at the same time giving me a ridiculous amount of duration. So I took off fleeting expertise simply because I want more duration, and I will always get duration over time by using this. So hopefully by the time my duration period wears off for my Halls of Mirrors first ability, I'll have enough energy that comes through Energy Nexus. So we'll test this. Dudes are talking about Alien Romulus and stuff. Why don't they make a horror movie about Warframe? Warframe was all about horror. The action part of Warframe is more like Aliens, the James Cameron one. But Warframe has always been about horror. We just see the action because we are killing things. But the whole universe of Warframe is horror. Everything is terrifying in Warframe.
Murmurs, envoy, lurks somewhere within the great indifference. To find it,
pressed the wrong button.
a visionary serum
Didn't intend to do that.
scanners.
Alright, so first ability, Halls of Marrow, they all come on, and their sole purpose is to make sure I don't get shot up. They take all the damage. But you must watch out for AoE blasts because those affect anything within the area. So if you see an AoE, you run out of the way. We have ridiculous duration period, so we're not worried about that as of yet. Second ability. What the hell? Oh. Shit. Oh, it doesn't matter. The second ability is not that important anyway. So even though I subsume this is the subsume one, it doesn't make a difference. I hardly use the second ability anyway, so that was the second ability. The subsume second ability, which isn't really that important. The third ability, which is the one you hold the button to increase weapon damage. And then you press it again in order to have Eclipse on you. Stay in the dark, and you take 75% less damage over time. It also works with regards to duration. You have more than a minute of the third ability on, more than enough time. And in places like this, there's nothing but darkness. So, perfect for her. The important thing to remember is always to look at your lower right corner and to see when your abilities are on and when they're about to go off. Now, I picked the wrong Mirage. I picked a Mirage with the radial blind on, so it's pointless for me to have the fourth ability. I shouldn't have used this Mirage, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use the fourth ability now. She throws the ball, and what you do is you don't let it kill. You just turn it off again. By turning it off, it explodes and then it blinds everything. So you don't really need the radial blind. It blinds everything. That's the fourth ability. So just remember, holding the third ability allows for weapon damage, but pressing it just once allows for her to go into clips to take damage reduction. So you could make a mistake and think that you're holding it, but you have to hold down on it for it to... Basically you're casting it twice, the third ability twice. One for holding and the other for casting eclipse. Two different things you do with that third ability. One for reduce damage, the other to increase, one to reduce damage from the enemies, the other to increase damage from your weapon. As you can see, it says here you hold down on third to increase Mirage weapon damage. Damage increased by 248%. That's a lot of damage. And then you just tap it slightly. Again, use the third ability 2 times. One to increase, to reduce weapon, one to reduce damage overall to the character, and holding down on third in order to increase damage of her weapon. So your bread and butter for your survival is first ability, to create your mirages around you so they don't kill you, they kill the mirages, which they can't because they're all mirrors. Third ability, second ability is to use sleight of hand, which is to make everything active, but I succeed it by using radio blind, which is not really needed because she has the fourth ability, which does this, which is also blind. So I only used it because I wanted to try something and I was testing something out. So now she has increased damage. I'm going to hold on the third ability. My weapon is now increased in 248% damage. So I tapped it once to reduce my damage overall to myself, and I hold on the third ability to increase my damage towards the weapon. That's why this enemy is taking a lot of damage. The high orange means they're taking critical damage. Low orange means that they're taking just regular high damage. And when it goes from high orange to red, that means they're taking critical damage or they'll die in a couple of seconds. So if you're doing a high orange, that means you're doing something good. And as you can see, the third ability duration period lasts for more than a minute. So whether you hold down the ability to increase your damage, it will hold down and you will wait for a full minute, or you just tap down to reduce the damage reduction to about 90%. It will stay on there for a full minute. All her abilities are very long, as you can see here. Hall of Arrows, minute, more than a minute. Second ability, 38 seconds, the smallest one. Third ability, minute, more than a minute. Fourth ability, 30 seconds. So anywhere from 30 seconds to a full minute are her abilities.
Here comes the tide. Let it break itself against you.
Her third ability is all about staying in darkness. The eclipse represents damage reduction. If you find yourself a nice little shadow, stay there. for damage reduction. If you could drag the enemy into the shadows, you take less damage. And then you hold down on that same third ability to increase your weapon damage while you're in the shadows. And Bob's your uncle.
As it was written, so has it come to pass. The awaited operator.
Essentials to remember: always have your first ability on, so damage goes towards your little doppelgangers.
Mara Luke.
That's your. And to hold on it once for increased damage, and tap it once to reduce damage. When you use your third to reduce damage, make sure you're standing in the shadows. It's more effective that way. And you only use your fourth in order to blind. But if you want to kill using a fourth, that's also fine. Bread and butter, first and third.
Come on. Let's at least pretend this mess can still work.
Alright, so the next Warframe I'm going to go towards. I'll do 2 more. And I thought I might be able to do 3 more. Coming to the time is coming up about, maybe I think I'll be able to do get all the way to Nidus. Okay, so trying to make Necros 1 a little bit smoother and faster. Each of the Warframes are very particular though, so it's very important to state exactly what you need to state with regards to them, so that if you're an interesting person that wants to know how to play the Warframe, you have to know exactly how to use them properly. So this is Necros. I won't speak with regards to his powers, and I'll only speak when it's necessary to do so. Okay, that's Necros. What are the important abilities to have? Bread and butter. The bread and butter is the third ability and your fourth ability. That's the important thing to remember. Now, the third ability is essential with regards to pulling resources out, which means energy, loot, so on and so forth. Doesn't matter what it is. If you have this ability on and they die, you can pull loot or energy or weapons or mods or whatever they have on them. That's a special thing. He could pull it out. I put the spoil on, so every now and again 7 amount of health is going to be drained from this Warframe. Typically, if you do not have the spoil on as a mod, which is on this Warframe right now, if you do not have the spoil on, energy will be drained every time you cast your third ability. But with the spoil on, the spoil aims towards your health. So your health will be drained every time you're near an enemy, and it will go out of your health rather than through the energy itself. Why this is significant to have this mod on is because you could build this Warframe for a lot of health. A lot of health. So that as you're going along in combat throughout a mission in this game, you could take off other mods that you have on, and you could throw on any mod that have additional health in order to increase the health of this Warframe, so that when you're casting and you're draining resources out of enemy, it would drain from your health rather than from your energy, because you would need energy to cast in order to do other things. The sole purpose of this Warframe is to farm resources out of other enemies, as in the reason why his third ability is so important, as well as his fourth. While you're using your fourth, you're doing your third. This Warframe is selected specific for the reason to either defend targets and pull resources, or to pull resources and defend yourself. It's mostly for those purposes, to defend and to pull resources. It's best to always have not too much far range with regards to your defenders that are helping you, or your shadows. But if you're talking about resource farming, then it doesn't matter, because the sole objective of this Warframe is to pull resources out of enemies in order to assist your allies and yourself. Let's say, for instance, you're in mission and you're on a long mission and you have to find health for your allies as they're running through certain corridors, or they're within vicinity of you and they're lacking health and they're about to die, but you happen to pull at least 3 different health orbs out of 3 different dead enemies. They've now have the ability to survive just a little bit longer, simply because you were able to pull health out of those enemies in order to increase your fellow Warframe survivability in mission, which they would undoubtedly have died if you weren't there to assist. So the third ability is very, very important, not just for you, for resources and for energy and for health, but also for secret mods and stuff that enemies might have on their person that they could drop. So you use this Warframe to farm. And the fourth ability is to defend yourself and to defend your fellow Tennos over time. Now, why health is very important? Because every single one of your shadows is dependent on your health in order for them to stay alive. So when a shadow is summoned, they decay 2% of your health per second over time. And as long as they're alive and they don't die in mission, they will decay 2% of health per second over time, if that makes any sense. So it's very important to always have more health in this Warframe. Very important, especially if you're farming. So for right now, I'm going to go to this one right here that has 235 range, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to increase his range to even further than that. I'm going to increase his range to 250, and I'm going to make sure his shield, his health, everything with regards to this Warframe has more health than anything else. Armor, of course, is needed, because if he has small amounts of armor, bullets will go straight through his armor and kill him quickly. So the more armor he has, the more necessary for him to survive. But since we're farming here, we're not doing a survival mission. Our sole purpose now is to give him more health. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give him more health. So I'm going to find more health mods. I got this one. I got Vitality. And I'm now going to look for more health mods. So you're probably saying to yourself, well, why would I need a frame to just to farm stuff if I need to survive, fight bosses? That's the whole purpose of the fourth ability. The fourth ability is to help you fight bosses as well by defending you as the boss is trying to kill your shadows, but he's not trying to kill you. That's why you would give him more health, to boost your health so that you could use said health in order to, as your clones are extracting health from you, 3 decay per second over time. You don't die. They decay your health and they'll eventually kill you over time. But it all depends on how much health that you have on you. You see, as soon as I increase the range of this Warframe, the decay increase, because the further resources away, the further the bubble or the further the range that he could pull for resources, the further he has to extend his power in order to pull resources, the harder it is for him to sustain his health. That's why more health is needed. The further the range, the more health is needed. So if I increase his range to, like, say 280, and I'm going to do that right now. Let's say I'll increase his range to about 280. The decay should increase. No, it stays at 3. Okay, fine. That's fine. That's perfect then. That means I don't need more range, and I could add more health. So the decay stays at a standard of 3 when you go to 250 range. So that's perfect for me. So now all I got to do is give him more armor and more health, and that's perfect. And as long as this spoiler's on, I don't ever have to worry about pulling resources using my energy, because my health is going to be substitute for that. Oh, and another thing, the health orbs that drop doesn't only assist your fellow Tennos, they also assist you. So when you lose health over time from using your fourth ability, you also gain health over time from enemies for which drop health from you, or from them. So that's another fun thing. I wonder how, I was curious about how Energy Nexus would work with regards to this. Would it work effectively? Because Energy Nexus increased the energy over time. But due to the amount of enemies that are going to die on the battlefield, it might not be fast enough. So this spoiler is always needed. So for this test, I'm going to go 250 with not a lot of physical strength, because the stronger you get, the more strength you give this Warframe, the more strength is taken away from you for the decay. So it's not only range increases your decay, but also strength as well. So let's see here. I'm going to give him more strength. Let's see what we'll do here. I'm going to remove this and put strength. Health is multiplied. Damage is multiplied. Shields is multiplied. The decay stays the same though. That's fine. Alright, so I'm going to remove that. And I think I'll do it. Alright. I'll use this. No, I want to get it to a standard of 100. Actually, yeah, that's what I'll do. Nope, it's not good. The duration is needed. Less duration takes away, also increases the decay. Alright, let's increase. Yeah, the decay goes down by 2%. More duration. But I want the multiplier more than that. Not enough. Yeah, so it's a very finicky thing. I would go with more duration rather than strength, to be honest with you. I'd rather have 1% less decay than increase the multiplier. No, actually, no. Now I think about it, I want to increase my damage output. Yeah, now I think about it, I want to increase my damage output. Okay, so let's go. Let's go with that. I want to increase my damage output and my health multiplier output. Let's try this. Yeah, it's not the best kosher build, so I would have to put two of this in here for that to work. But this does give me a good 95%. It still keeps it at 3, but now the multiplier has increased just slightly. If I could get that to about a 2, get it to about 100, I should be fine. Let's try something else. Let's try something else. And let's see. This. And no. No. This. Yep. And this and no, still not enough. Alright, so that's what I was hoping for, but unfortunately doesn't work. Alright, so that's that. I'm going to now increase my armor because I have to have a lot of armor. I mean, I have to have more than 100 and something armor. It's no good. And now I'm going to put, that's perfect. And now the final finale is to see if I could, well, nothing but a 4 will fit here other than something that would be Matarai, which is to increase range. The closest I could get. Yeah, this is the closest I could get with decent amount of multiplier. Typically you always want it within 2% range. You can increase the duration in order to do so. Let's see if I can increase the duration in order to do so. Yeah, this is good. Over time, if you form things correctly, you can increase your range even further. Like if you form both of these, you never have to worry about putting power drift here. You can put another range mod here. As the former capacity slot has been reduced due to this. So I'm just going to show the power. So the whole thing is to make sure, because this Warframe is very specific, I made sure I explain everything specifically. So the decay is increased if you lower the duration. The decay is increased if you increase the range. The decay is increased if you increase if you reduce or increase the power strength. So you have to know what you're doing with this Warframe. So here I'm going to show it with everything off. Real fast explanation. At a base standard of all mods off, this is how it is. At a standard of 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, that's how it's supposed to be. Alright, so you could reduce that some more if you want by adding duration. But the duration of 155 will take it down to 2%. So let's say we want even less duration. 179. Still stays at 2%. Let's say we put on narrow-minded. $254. Duration is now at 1%. So now our job is to do one thing and one thing only. To find out where that specific spot is, to get it at 1% and only at 1%. Here it's still at 2, so you need to be within the 200 range in order to do so. Unfortunately, the only way to get within the 200 range to do so is to have several mods on, which are all range, which might not be a good idea. So let's try it, because now you're taking a lot of capacity slot. So let's see, we're now at the 200 range. We're now at 1%, which is good. So now we have 3 duration slots, so now we can fill out everything else. You then put on rolling guard in order to keep yourself alive. Vitality. And then rolling guard, which is a specific mod for you to stay alive. And then you put on more health mods, which is any mods you could find that has the word health on it. Or armor mod. And then you find another health mod. So for this one, I'm going to go with 75% health. Is that good enough? Let's say that's not good enough. 75% health. That's 40% health. And let's say look for another one. Look for more. How much health does this give? 20% health. So the one with 75% health is the better choice. Vigor. So we'll go with this. Put this here. And we're now at 1091 health, which is very good for what we're trying to do. But as you can see, we have no range, which is very bad, because when you're despoiling, which is going to go here, you're only going to be despoiling within the limited range. So as interesting as this seems, it's actually bad. By you having additional duration mods in, that's a bad thing. So in this situation, what you would do to solve that problem, most people would go and do something like this. They'll put that on, then they'll go check it, and it's at 2%. Still not enough. So what they do, they'll take this and put this here. And what they'll do is they'll go in reverse, and they'll pick the same narrow-minded, and as long as it stay at 200, even though it's the lower version of narrow-minded, they then go back here and look at it, it's at 1%. So now you only have 2 mods that are duration based. And now you then don't have to worry about so much of the narrow-minded knocking down your range. It's only at 70%, so now every other mod moving forward will be able to increase it up. So let's say you put this here, it's now at 100. Does that still seem good? No, it doesn't. So this would have to be reduced. So the problem is to have enough range in order to do what you want to do, but that doesn't work the way you want it to. So let's now go for overextended. It's now at 190, which is fine. And stretch. It's now at 205, which is fine. It's not great. And we're now going to increase this to 220, which is fine, but also not great. So the issue with this Warframe is to find out your nice little comfort zone where you only take 1% of decay damage, and at the same time have enough range to pull resources out of enemy. and use the spoil at the same time, because the spoil is essential. So how would you do that? It's kind of impossible if you think about it, because you need to have long range in order to pull those resources out. So the only solution is to remove narrow-minded, which will lower the duration, and have it here, and then increase, let's say, increase this and put it here to 183. So that's your only solution if you want to have ridiculous range. It won't get you to that 1%, but it will get you to 2%, and it won't increase your multipliers beyond the 1% range, because you're now using overextended. Because without overextended, the most you will get is 160. And you're saying to yourself, alright, then I'll just throw in another mod which will increase my range, which is this, which will get you 190. But that's as far as you could go. Range, 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 190. You will increase your multiplier to the standard of two times multiplier, but unfortunately your range with regards to pulling resources will only be 190 rather than 250. So it really depends on what you want. Do you want that 2 times multiplier, or do you want, more range? So it all depends on what you're looking for. I, for one, want more range, and so I'm going to put more range on. It's very important to describe these things, and when I increase my, let's say I'll increase my power strength. Look at this. So now everything is multiplied to a high degree, 2.39 at 2%. So even though I'm losing 2 decay of health, I'm also getting 0.239 multiplier health. So that's that. This is my solution to this. Of course, it's not going to be efficient with your energy, but of course you already know energy is not an issue when you have the spoil on, because the spoil takes from your health rather than your energy. The issue is having enough energy in order to do the job, which, if you're thinking about it, if you're not going to have armor on, then you have to increase your health even more. But honestly, I say 135, yeah, 135, this is not really good. In fact, I would say it's very bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and overextended. And I could get it to 235 and still won't work. So it really is frustrating. It really is frustrating. But if you know what you're doing, it's not as frustrating as you think. Definitely not as frustrating as you think. So what we're going to do is we're now going to put rejuvenate on. Well, mostly physiques on, because I'm worrying more about my health than anything else. And I'm going to put on blind rage, which I had on before, which will increase my multiplier. Then I'll put on overextended here. Then I'll put on vitality. Alright, so less with regards to armor, more with regards to health. But I do know for a fact that 135 of anything is very bad. So I'm going to add on just a little bit more armor, just for survival's sake. But I will have to pay attention to my health, since I only have vitality on. Yes, I understand the multipliers there, but I have to pay attention to my health. So, that said, this is how I'm going to do everything. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, I can finally use this Warframe. Very, very particular Warframe. You have to know what you're doing with your third and with your fourth. So as I said, as long as you get it within that nice comfort zone of anywhere from 2% to about 1%, with increased multiplier, you should be fine. And the only way to get it within that comfort zone of 1% is to increase your duration. But the only way to increase your duration is to get it to 200. And the only way to get it to 200 is to make sure you have a duration mod that will get you to 200 without lowering your range for your purpose of extracting resources out of enemies. The bare minimum, I would say the bare minimum in this scenario, if you really think about it, the very bare minimum with range would be 200 in order for you to get it to 1%, and to have multiplier be at 2%, so you will always be in the safe zone. But that would be the bare minimum, 200 range. So if you want to extend and farm more stuff outside of the 200 range, you have to understand that the moment you extend this range beyond 200, your duration will be affected, or your strength will be affected. Because the moment you remove this, you're now back down to 1%, 1-1. And that's not really safe, but that's normal. So if you increase, let's say I'm going to increase it using this 70%. Still haven't gotten to 2% yet, getting very close, but it's not strong enough. Let's say we do use transient fortitude. Transient fortitude will lower it a lot and takes away from the duration period, which then put it back up to 2%. Your health multiplier is less than that, so that's no good. So in many ways you have to use blind rage unless you put all three Umbra mods on, which means all 3 slots have to be Umbred in order to increase your strength. Otherwise you will always need blind rage to increase your strength so you could get health multipliers over time. This is a very particular Warframe, so now I'll use him in combat. And since I've been talking about him for a while, because he's very particular, I'm only going to play one more Warframe after this. It's very important to say these things and to explain these things, because if you don't explain them to someone, they won't know what to do, especially if they're first starting to play Warframe. So you have to know how to use it. You know, this Warframe is based on range. This Warframe is based on duration. This Warframe is based on strength. If you don't know how to synergize all those abilities together in order to use them, they become a problem. Alright? Taking away from this Warframe's duration, increase the decay amount. Taking away from this Warframe's range, decrease the loot that you're going to get back in return from your third ability. Not giving this Warframe enough health means the decay of the fourth will pull a lot out, so you have to have ability strength to substitute for it. So you need both strength, both duration, and both range for this Warframe. Strength, duration, and range. Now, if you're saying I don't really need strength, then great. Then you're only operating on the fact of only needing 1%, only needing 1.4% for 1%, which is fine. Which means you could then increase your range. That's fine. You could farm anything that way. That's fine. No problem. But if you want just a slight amount of strength in order to get even more health in return than 1.1%, you want 0.64 coming back to you over time rather than doubling it. Then I would add more strength. Add more strength. So for this run, I'm simply going to remove that and put more range on. That's it, to get us to 250 with 1% decay and 1.4% multiplier return, which means even though I'm decaying at 1%, my 1.4% multiplier is canceling out the 1% decay over time per second. And I'm keeping my range at the same time. So I'm showing this build because this is very particular Warframe. So everything I just said is within what's set here. 250, 40, 200, everything's set. Having physique on, increased health. Health is being at 214, which is not that great, but and rolling guard is necessary, and this is necessary, so it doesn't pull from your energy. And this is the setup for this. So your decay is at 1%, but your multiplier also returns you to cancel out that at 1%. And of course this is low. You don't have a vast amount of range, but you have decent amount of range in order to do what you need to do. 250, more than decent amount. So now I'll use this in combat. This Warframe's bread and butter is his third and his fourth.
Word to the wise, Tenno. Do not ask about World War II.
A well-oiled machine, and once more into the breach, what? Behold the line.
I know certain people will probably say, well, get to the point, get to the point. Like, there is no get to the point in Warframe. If you don't explain things specifically, you could get frustrated if it's not explained to you specifically. Every Warframe is very specific, some less than others. He works with regards to decaying of health. If you don't understand how the decay health works, you could be screwing yourself over and dying a lot. Now, as you see at the top, the health goes back to 888. Once you find resources on the floor, you recast. The health goes back down again, back to 888. I'm recast. I didn't decay my health because I already have health before, but just decayed it there just a little. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Okay, so cast the fourth. Alright. So while he is busy trying to kill them, or aim at them, I'm going to be trying to kill him. Where is he? Okay, there he is. Where is he? There he is. Okay. So do more summons. So he gets a little bit confused. He's not completely fooled by your summons, but it does rattle him a little. See, because now he's aiming towards that one. The beautiful part about him getting rattled is that he gets confused, and over time he's so desperate trying to find you, but your summon stuff are doing damage to him, so he aims at those who are doing damage to him. So they're great distractions. At least they lessen the damage on you and your allies. That should be it for him. And that's it. One final swing did the job. Alright, and of course, because I have range on my Necros, the health there being dropped by enemies, because I don't necessarily have to kill those enemies for those health to drop. Allies could do it as well, as long as his third ability, Despoil, is on. Whoever die within the vicinity of his range, health, resources, as well as energy are dropped from them. This is a great Warframe, especially if you need stuff. As you can see, it's still at 888. Of course, as long as health is being dropped within the vicinity of his range, he'll always be able to increase his health over time. The health multiplier, as is shown here, is 1.4 multiplier for 1% decay. So I'm getting more health return than I'm getting decay. So it doesn't feel like I'm getting any decay at all. That's why my health is still at 888, because the multiplier is more than decay. Otherwise, you would see the health bar keep going down for that 888. So when you're using this Warframe, you must understand how the decay works. It either works to your advantage or it works against you. If you don't understand it, it works against you. So that's it for this Warframe, and pretty much that's it for me. I guess I could help them out doing whatever they're trying to do, but the purpose of this video is not to do anything else other than to switch to the next Warframe for testing purposes. Not sure how that would play out. So I have to wait on them or wait for the timer to initiate. So it is what it is. I'll stay dead right here. Oh, wait a minute. Would it actually... No, it won't count me as being here if I'm dead, I believe. Again? Oh, he's here again? Oh, let's dance then. I'm all about it. Well, after me this time? I'm all about it. Come on then. Let's go. Come on. I got 1% health decay. I'm golden. I'll throw everything at you, including the kitchen sink. Right in your head. How about some allies? Come on, right in the head. What's wrong? Oh, I'm sorry. Must have been bad for you. Magnificent Warframe. Magnificent Warframe. I would say it's not an S plus Warframe because it's just a farming Warframe. It's not a DPS Warframe, or technically it's not one of the best crowd control Warframe, but it is a magnificent Warframe for what its purpose is, which is to farm. So it's an A+ Warframe, not really an S tier Warframe. So I'll still keep it at A+. I'm gonna be real. It's A+. It's not really S tier. It's not a DPS Warframe, and it's not the strongest defense Warframe, but it is the best farming Warframe. So it's an A+ Warframe. So on to my last Warframe for this video, because I have to do other stuff. That should be Nessa. Alright, some don't work as good as others. Okay, so I could easily show it in mission, but it's best to understand it from here first. As is stated, the obvious should be presented here. Flames on this Warframe's legs. The longer, the further the range is, with regards to this Warframe, the further the flames go outwards. So it doesn't say range with regards to this, but I guess how do I describe it? The higher the flames are, depending on the range or the radius, the explosion radius. So it doesn't tell you that it has a range on it. It says they only have an explosion radius, but that explosion radius is dependent on range. So if your range is only 474 for an explosion radius, once the enemy catches fire, if you're running a direct line towards them and it catches fire, that explosion only goes out within 4.74. So it won't affect anyone that's further away from that. Plus, there's also the factor of if you're running in a straight line, or you're running around enemies, or you're running anywhere, if your radius is shorter, then the flames that you're walking towards or running past enemies is going to be much shorter. So it's going to be more narrow. So if you increase your range, the flames on your pathway is going to be further. So you could catch more than one enemy rather than just one enemy if you're running around them. Typically what people do is try to run around them or run directly into them, bump into them, and then they catch flames. But if you want to play it safe, you increase your range a little. Here, not so much. You just have to know how to be fast enough and dodge bullets and run into them. So range plays a factor. It regards to more with regards to the other abilities than this one. Duration is the sole purpose here. You want to catch as many people on flame as much as possible. Let's say there are 100 people in the room. You want to make sure you have enough duration time in order to catch all 100 enemies in the room and catch them on fire with the first abilities, so they could all be in flames before the duration period runs out. So you want to have enough duration period for the effect to stay on them before it wears off and they start firing at you again. So by the time you get to the 50th, 60th, 70th, 80th, 90th, or all the way to the 100th guy, if guy number one that you affected from the beginning is already capping bullets at you fast enough, or all the way guy to number 10, then that means your duration isn't high enough for you to get to guy number 100 before they start shooting at you again. So yeah, very important to understand. Duration is an essential key for the first ability. Second ability, not so much. I would say this is probably the least most impressive ability of all of them. It's not really necessary. Bread and butter is first, third, and sometimes fourth. First and third are your bread and butter. You must understand your first and your third. This wears off over time. This wears off over time due to damage. This is your main powerhouse. This is what keeps you being a god, to be invincible. You basically you form your warframe and you increase your power strength in order to increase your damage that you're going to take over time. Your your time invulnerability is only 3 seconds, but your damage multiplier absorption is increased due to your power strength. So this is a duration warframe. This is a strength warframe. This is a range warframe. Remember those things. Duration and strength more than everything. And sometimes range. So it's mostly duration and strength. Duration and strength. For 1 and for 3. Now your fourth ability has to do with impalement. And that's also duration and of course range. So like I say, range does play a significant part. So if you have enough range for your first ability, then you'll definitely have enough range for your fourth ability. What this does is when you're in a tight critical situation or you and everyone within your ally group are about to die, Nessa, this is a guy, Nessa is a guy, he throws up his ability onto the ground and spikes or spears come out of the ground and stick everyone into the air. During this process, more enemies are going to be coming from your left, right, and center. But you don't want those enemies that are on those spikes to get down from those spikes until you finish killing those enemies that are coming at you from left, right, and center. You want to keep them on those spikes for as long as possible until the duration wears out, and then you kill them. That's how you use the fourth ability. To lower the playing field of amount of enemies on the playing field by stun locking some of them while focusing your firing and your damage and your work on others. And when it runs out, then you kill those mofos that are on the ground now after duration wears out. That's how you use the fourth. So first ability, second ability, very important, and third ability, and fourth ability. So it's first, third, and fourth. Second, you can subsume that for whatever you want. Not really necessary. This is an A+ to S- Warframe. Others who know how to use it really good get it to an S. I believe this can go to a S+ as well. But I have it about around at the S. So I'm going to use it in combat and see how it works. First, I'll see where my ability strength is. If it's garbage, then I'm going to switch to one that does have stronger ability strength. You're going to survive for a variety. Absorption multiplier 6.16. Damage per second 308.13. Let's see if we can increase that to about, let's say 300. Remove this because we need more duration. And for that third ability and for that fourth duration. And now we're at 291. Let's see what 291 gives us. Multiplier 7.6.26. 3, not so bad. Let's see if we could get that to an 8 or at least a 7.50. You'll see what I mean once you go into combat with this Warframe. Okay, 0 capacity. Oh, this Warframe is also based on armor. That's why I have this here. Can I fit anything else? Well, with this amount of efficiency, not so much. I will need to put in prime flow instead of flow. A rolling guard is necessary. Streamline is definitely necessary if I'm going to have blind rage on. Everything here is good. If I had both of these, I would have the ability to have more power strength. And if I, let's see. Here we go. Every enemy I kill, I should have more power coming towards me. Wait a minute. Weapon. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Ah, there it is. Okay. This will increase my power strength by a certain percentage, 0.08. I have to max this out. So every time I kill an enemy, my power strength will increase over time. So this is the best I could do it with this Warframe for right now, and my strength level is now by 7.63. 361 blah 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 blah. Basically total damage absorption is 7,327, which is a lot. If you could get his damage absorption to 10,000, this guy is pretty much invincible. If you could get it past 10,000, he's invincible. Well, no Warframe is fully invincible, but if you get his power absorption past 10,000 or close to 10,000, he's very much almost invincible. And you could always turn this ability on, turn the third ability on. So once his damage absorption is gone, you could turn it on again. So casting speed is kind of an essential towards this. I don't have casting speed on this one simply because this is a demonstration. So let's try this again. Let's do this a mission, and this will be the last video. I will show you how strong it is. I'll stand right in the middle of fire and take a lot of damage. So level 250 enemies. That's how strong these enemies are. These are level 195 to 200. So these are level 200 to 220. That's some big boy damage that you're going to be getting. No joke. The only time an enemy is level 200 is when you're like past an hour and 30 minutes in a mission. So you're getting more than an hour and 30 minutes enemy damage towards you. My suggestion, as soon as you get in mission, you see your first enemy, turn on your third ability. And then worry about using your first. That dude's already dead. He's already dead. Alright. That little symbol down there that says 8,780, that's my armor. That's the amount of energy I could, damage I could take over time. And of course, my multiplier is what again? My absorption multiplier is 7.26, which is pretty damn good. It's more than 3 times multiplier. Anything more than 3 times multiplier, 3 or 4 times multiplier is pretty damn good. Okay, first ability. Let's set everything on fire. You don't need to recast your first ability as well. It'll come off by itself. Because if you press the first ability to recast it again, it will just repeat the same process and putting it back on again. So no need to waste energy. Let it just go off on its own. Here is perfect because this is a defense target mission, which means you run around here and putting flames all around your defense target. So anyone who gets within the flames gets exploded, or the flames interrupt their abilities because they're on fire. See, they're being interrupted, they're on fire. It'll come off. Is it off yet? No, it's not off yet. You just run into them, or run around them, and they'll run into the flames themselves. Recast it again. Physical damage absorption is at 5,890. Alright, here we go. He pops in. I surround him with flames. He runs into the flames. He's on fire now. So now ganked. I'll use my fourth ability just to make sure no enemy gets too close. There you go, the fourth ability hit him after the fire is on him. So the first ability doesn't do a lot of damage or heat damage towards him. It's just an explosion thing. But the fourth ability does a lot of damage. And it stuns. This is a defense warframe. Its sole purpose is to defend everything. So I keep running around stuff. That's because I'm making huge flame balls circle around things. So enemies can be catching fire, and if they're caught on fire, their health slowly decay over time. Because that's what fire does. It burns to the health. I'm now at 685. It's getting pretty low.
Your strength has made all the difference. We can.
Flame is off. Turn flames back on. Flames back on. And no need to prove myself within defense target. I basically used all the abilities I need to. Didn't you really use the second because it's not very necessary. First, third, fourth, those are your bread and butters. Third, most essential. Second, second essential. Fourth, third essential. And that's it for this video. I believe I did, let's see, how many? I believe I did 7. I started from Limbo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So I can't do any more because I believe it's going to be 2 o'clock soon, and this is a 3-hour video now. So that's it. That's all I could say. One I know least about is Limbo. I hardly use him, but he's very good because all he has to do is charge forward, and he goes into a rift, and he basically can walk around, and people can shoot him, and they can't do anything to him as long as he's in a rift. That's the best part about him. But beyond that, I don't like using him because it's he interrupts other people trying to do their own thing. Because if you don't know how to use this guy, he becomes an annoyance to other players. So I typically stay away from him simply not to piss people off. But other than that, he's pretty much an S-level Warframe, but S- Warframe, if you know how to use him properly. If you don't, he belongs in the A. I think I would keep him in the A simply because he would piss people off. But if you were to solo with him, he's S. So that's it. That's it for this video.